if she had any property prior to marriage, it remains entirely hers, and she's not responsible to spend a penny, even on her own food, clothing, housing, and all her needs. Fourthly, if she earns income after marriage, either from her previous property or from work with the mutual understanding with the husband, she is entitled to keep the entire additional income exclusively for her financial security. If she gets divorced, she is guaranteed full support during the waiting period, which could extend up to 9 months if she's pregnant. The child support is guaranteed. So in one way, you could say that there are so many items where Islamic Sharia has given women much more financial security, more rights than men. So when that is balanced to some degree in the shares of inheritance, then I hope that we understand what we mean by the concept of equity, that it refers more to the equality, not in each and every simple item, but the totality of rights, privilege, and responsibilities that are quite balanced, if not even to say it's tilted even more towards financial security for the woman. I just want to comment on what we mean by equality.
Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Again, I'm impressed. How could I not be? I think one of my concerns, and it's a concern out of my own tradition, is that many of those kinds of things that happen in the West, I don't begin to understand how that all came about for you. But when that comes about in the West, it has overtones of inability to survive. It has overtones of women being unable in the society to be a full part of the society, and therefore must be protected. I do things with women who ask their husband's permission to go someplace, and they will say to me, well, it's not really permission. I mean, it's a custom. We just say, may I go to such and such may I go to such and such a thing, but he never has to ask it. And the woman always feels, and this is how inbred this is and how ingrained this is, the woman always feels that it's a sign of his care over her that he is giving her these permissions, or that he takes care of her financially, or all this other business that we're talking about. When we talk about equity, and I appreciate that, I like that word, it's very difficult to explain to men what we mean by equity, because sexism and kind of the patriarchal model is so ingrained in all of our societies that you don't have a clue unless you have been a minority person. And if you have been a minority person in some relationship, then try to make the transference of learning. Try to apply to women the experience you have had as a minority. It's not so much that what's written down or handed over, it's the treatment. It's the understanding of full value. It's when people don't talk to you louder because they think you don't understand them.
Thank you.
I just have a brief comment on that, if I may. Yeah, I'm usually quick. I think there's a common notion that seems to be in the West, that perhaps missed the point as seen by Muslims. From the people I talk to, there seem to be a sort of notion that if the wife is supported by the husband, that this is a sort of paternalism, that she has to be dependent upon him as if he's giving her charity by supporting her, and that only if she works and earns money she would have her dignity. This is not the way at all that a Muslim looks at it, because as Sharia, which is coming from Allah, from divine source, has already made it an incumbent and duty on man to look after the financial support of the family. It becomes not a charity to the wife to support her, it becomes a sacred duty. It does not mean that the wife who's staying at home is idle, as again many Westerners might think. On the contrary, Islam views the role of male and female as complementary roles, not just competing roles for supremacy, because supremacy is only for Allah Himself. So the complementarity of these roles, if it requires, for example, that when the children are small and the mother needs them most and the father takes care of all the financial needs of the family, is not doing a charity, he's doing his duty, and is enabling his wife to be as a female, to make the best of her femaleness also, being a good mother to the children. And finally, on the question of treatment, you put your finger on the right point also, because that's something that both in the Quran and the teaching of the Prophet has been very much emphasized. Just to quote a couple, when he said, the best of you is the best to his family, and I am the best of you to my family. He said, it is only the generous in character who's good to women, and it's only the wicked who insults them. ما أكرمهن إلا كريم ولا أهانهن إلا لئيم. So when we deal with one aspect, it's actually within the context also of other areas.
Since you started the treatment of women, and we have already an item that talks about the treatment of women as viewed by the scriptures, if you don't mind, let's pick up on that and save some time. So I'd like you to continue your discussion on the treatment, and then we'll move to that point and come back to the other point of divorce after we finish this point.
You want me to continue on the question of treatment?
Yes.
One very quick way of look at it in a very simple way is to look as to how women are to be treated as daughters, wives, mothers, and sisters in faith in general. As children or as daughters, the Prophet was very clear that one should not discriminate between his children. In one hadith actually he says, وَلَمْ يُؤْثِرْ وَلَدَهُ عَلَيْهِ. If one had two daughters, did not favor his son, specifically pointed on her, God will enter him into paradise. In one hadith he said that if one has two daughters, he did not bury them alive like the ignorant pre-Islamic Arabs did some. He did not insult her and raised her kindly and properly, that he and I will come in paradise like this. And he pointed with his fingers. The Prophet showed that in his own behavior. Whenever Fatima, his daughter, came, he stood up, kissed her, and let her sit in his place, and she reciprocated the same. As a wife, suffice to refer to the Quran, Surah 30 in Ayah 22, of the signs of Allah, the signs of His mercy and wisdom, that He created you from your same type, same nature, min anfusikum, spouses, that you might find peace and tranquility in them. And He ordained between you love and compassion. Lo, herein are signs for those who reflect. And I quoted other hadiths also on how one should treat his wife as a mother. Even though this is a weak narration, but that's basically, but the meaning is correct. It says paradise is at the feet of mother. However, a much stronger and more authentic narration related to the Prophet is the famous story when a man came to him and he said, tell me, who among all people is most worthy of my kindness and good company? He said, your mother. He said, who's next? He said, your mother. Who's next? Your mother, only in the fourth time. He said, your father. My preferable way of putting it is like 75% of the kindness to the mother, 25% to the father, or to put it in Olympic terms, gold medal first place for the mother, silver medal for the mother, bronze medal for the mother, and for the father maybe a consolation certificate. As a sisters in faith, the Prophet used a very beautiful expression that has two shades of related meanings. إنما النساء شقائق الرجال, that women are but, and the word shaqaiq in Arabic could mean two things. The other half, that means they are the half of the society, or shaqaiq also means sisters, but the sisters of men. The Quran speaks about men and women proceeding from one another. بعضكم من بعض, you proceed one from the other. And this is just a short, very quick touch of many that are available.
Dr. Lewis,
well, there are various tacks to take on that. I think one of the important things to say is that very often in the New Testament, if you look at Jesus' treatment of women, it radically challenges the kind of conventions of its day. And maybe one of the, and a lot of the stories of the Samaritan woman, of the woman who pours expensive oil and washes his feet, and a whole variety of stories are stories in which he treats women who would have been otherwise thought as outcasts, as strangers, as immoral, with care, with equality, and so forth. Perhaps the most important and interesting of these is that actually the witnesses to the resurrection are in the first place